So this past week marks 70 years since the first outdoor warning test in Wichita. It occurred on April 22nd, 1952, and the first Thunderbolt air raid siren was mounted on top of the Roosevelt School, which is now the East High School. After that siren test, we installed an additional 13 Thunderbolt sirens, 4 of which still exist today. Those 4 are currently being refurbished so we can put them back up in our system. But why we're here today is we're going to commemorate that 70th anniversary of that test by testing our attack tone of our system, which we don't normally test. So Mondays at noon, we normally test what's called the alert tone. And that tone is used for alerting the general public of severe weather, such as tornadoes. That is a tone that is very common to us. It's a very steady tone. This coming Monday, May 2nd, at noon, we're going to test our attack tone. And that attack tone is a classic rise and fall, as you would commonly hear from an air raid siren. And this is the first test that was done in 1952, was this attack tone. We test it periodically just to make sure it still works. The last time the attack mode was tested was in 2015. And coincidentally, previous to that, it was 7 years previous to 2015 that it was tested as well. So we appear to be on this unintended cycle of testing it every 7 years or so. But it is very important for us to test this function in our system to ensure that it's working properly. This is for us to validate the functionality of our system, this regardless of geopolitical factors that are happening in Europe or elsewhere. This has nothing to do with that at all. We're just trying to make sure our system is working the way it should be. These sirens were installed in 1952 in response to the Civil Defense Act, which was signed into law by President Harry Truman. Part of that act also mandated things like emergency control centers, fallout shelters, and these air raid sirens that we have. So even though the sirens were installed to warn of air raids in 1952, they were repurposed in 1958 to warn of tornadoes. The first ever use of an air raid siren to warn of a tornado happened at Greenwich and Waterman on June 11th of 1958. And regardless of the tone you hear, whether it's the alert tone or the attack tone, the instructions are exactly the same. Seek shelter and get more information. We have a volunteer program where you can adopt a siren. If you go to the county's website and look for emergency management, we have an Adopt a Siren program where you can sign up to adopt the siren that is closest to you. And if you happen to be available at noon on Mondays and you can observe that test, you can report back to us via email at sirens@sedgwick.gov and let us know if it didn't work or if it did work.